I'm certain that the vast majority of people watching this video are going to disagree with what I say in it, but that's completely fine because I am ranking like 12 movies and 7 series, putting them into 5 different tiers. It's very unlikely that we'd agree anyway. So here is my ultimate Star Wars ranking. So the tiers are not seen, never watching again, I'd rewatch it, enjoyable, incredible, and peak fiction. So there is a couple here that I haven't seen yet, so let's just get them out of the way. And there we go, let's start ranking these. So the list actually begins with the series, and we are starting off big with the Clone Wars. It is 7 seasons of fantastic Star Wars. Of course, it's finding itself in peak fiction. It does start a little bit slow, but if we're being honest, it just has some of the best Star Wars across the entire franchise, and it definitely deserves a spot alongside the Mandalorian, a character that no one knew basically anything about. The only thing we knew was that they were a Mandalorian, and now after just 2 seasons, they are like one of the most loved characters in the whole franchise, and that is no accident. This is one of the most like well-crafted pieces of Star Wars content we have ever got, and in my opinion, it is by far the best series that we've had since Disney bought Star Wars. Speaking of series since Disney bought Star Wars, we have Star Wars Resistance. I have had the misfortune of seeing this series, and although it's not as bad as everyone says, I'm never watching it again. I just don't feel like it was made for me. It's definitely much more like child focused, and the next one up is Star Wars Rebels, which a lot of people say the same thing about, but I actually really enjoy, and I'm putting it in incredible. Again, it starts slow, but I don't think it starts as slow as the Clone Wars. I actually quite like season 1 of Rebels. Like the Clone Wars, it also has Maul, and he's a fantastic part of the series, but it also has one of the best villains in all of Star Wars, and that is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Those 2 characters, along with some more like returning favorites like Vader and Ahsoka, and in my opinion a fantastic new set of characters, that being the Ghost Crew, I think it's a very solid series. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit like repetitive, but I just have a good time when I watch Star Wars Rebels, and I don't think it's meant to be like the most in-depth, like insane storyline, but it is just fun to watch, and there's some fantastic characters that I am excited to see in stuff like the Ahsoka series. Now next up we have the Bad Batch, and the Bad Batch for me is one that I'm unsure about, because there's great moments in the Bad Batch series, but partnered alongside a lot of filler episodes. Like, I like the characters in the Bad Batch. I like Cad Bane who appeared, I like Fennec Shand, but just the storyline really did let it down. Because although I said Star Wars Rebels was repetitive sometimes, the difference was I could enjoy the repetitive episodes of Star Wars Rebels, but with the Bad Batch, it was so, like, annoying that it was the same thing every episode. Oh, mission for Sid, mission for Sid, mission for Sid, mission for Sid, Wrecker hits his head again, Wrecker hits his head again, Wrecker hits his head again, and that just went on for so long, so it's going to go in, I'd rewatch it. It wasn't terrible, it had good moments, but overall, it wasn't that great. And speaking of not that great is the Book of Boba Fett. I definitely enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett much more when it was actually being released, but since looking back on it, it was just okay. I do agree with the majority of the fandom that, like, the Din Djarin episodes were the best parts of a Boba Fett series, and that really should not be the case. Boba Fett is one of the most iconic characters, and a series focused on him had its best moments without him in them. I like that they tried to do something with his character, but I don't think that they pulled it off very well. I think episode 4, 5, and 6 were fantastic. I didn't like 1, 2, or 3, and the finale was just okay. So for that reason, it's partnering the Bad Batch, and I'd rewatch it. And by the way, I'm gonna reorder everything within their tiers to like the exact ranking I'd have of them at the end of this video, so be sure you stick around to see that. Now, we have the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, a series that people would say a lot of the same things about the Book of Boba Fett for, you know, slightly disappointing, focused on other characters too much, but I definitely think it was better than the Book of Boba Fett, although I do still agree with some of those issues. I think Reva was a bit, like, unnecessary. Like, why have a series on Obi-Wan Kenobi that's meant to be about Obi-Wan and Vader focus on some random Inquisitor so much to set up a future project? Like, I'm okay with stuff setting up future things, like Marvel does it all the time, but a 6-episode series, spending half of the series setting up a future project? No. But pretty much like everything in Star Wars, it did have some fantastic moments. I think Vader was arguably the best he's ever been portrayed in this series, and mainly for that reason, and of course some fantastic scenes with Obi-Wan himself, the Kenobi series is going to go in enjoyable. Now we have the Clone Wars movie. I don't really have much to say about the Clone Wars movie. It just feels like a couple episodes of season 1 of the Clone Wars crammed together into a movie, and for that reason, I put it in I'd rewatch it. Like, I'm gonna see it at some point. I'm not overly looking forward to when that will be, but I am going to rewatch it because it was okay. Now moving on to the movies, we have A New Hope, the one that started it all. A New Hope is just a very, very solid movie all round. I don't think it's groundbreaking, I don't think it's peak fiction, but I do think it's pretty incredible in my opinion. I've rewatched A New Hope many times, and I've never actually found myself enjoying it less the more that I watch it, and that's something that does happen like pretty often with me, but A New Hope is just really good. Now, The Empire Strikes Back, what many people regard as their favourite Star Wars movie, isn't quite mine, but I still love it. Of course, it kicks off great with like the Battle of Hoth and stuff like that, and it ends fantastically with Luke versus Vader. But just the middle period, like, as much as I really love the scenes with Luke and Yoda on Dagobah, and like Han and Leia, etc, getting chased by the Empire, then they go to Cloud City, for some reason in my mind just seems a bit like weird. Like, not much happens, but it is like the majority of the movie. But The Empire Strikes Back is most definitely still incredible. And next up we have Return of the Jedi, which I recently found out was most people's least favorite original trilogy movie, but spoilers for where I'm going to rank this, it's my favorite. Yes, it would have been better if the Ewoks were Wookiees. That would probably make it a perfect movie. But other than that, I really can't think of anything that I would change about this. It starts off fantastic with like Jabba's palace, then the sail barge battle, etc. And it genuinely could not end any better with the Battle of Endor simultaneous to the Luke and Vader stuff. And for that reason, I think Return of the Jedi is peak fiction. Then we have The Phantom Menace. This is potentially where my list gets unpopular because I'm not a big fan of The Phantom Menace. Yes, Duel of the Fates is good. Yes, the pod race is good. Yes, Qui-Gon is incredible. But everything other than that, it's alright. But it is the only Star Wars movie that I actually find myself getting bored on more than one occasion that I've rewatched it. And for that reason, I will rewatch it, but I might not enjoy it that much. Attack of the Clones is one that people would put around the same level as The Phantom Menace, but not me. I recently rewatched Attack of the Clones, and I actually really enjoyed it. I've said before that I think it actually has one of the best storylines in the whole of Star Wars, but for reasons like dialogue, pacing, etc, it's not quite the best movie, but it's definitely enjoyable. Wrapping off the prequel trilogy, we most definitely have the best prequel trilogy movie, and Revenge of the Sith definitely has its flaws, but its positives are so good that I am able to look past its flaws and just look at the incredible lightsaber fights, the incredible emotion, the incredible plot, etc, and put it in peak fiction. The Force Awakens is a movie that I've been recently pretty vocal about how much I actually enjoy it. I think it is similar to A New Hope. It's just really good all round. I've never rewatched The Force Awakens and liked it any less than the time before, and the time before I really enjoyed it, and I think The Force Awakens is incredible. I think all the characters are done really well. I think the action is done really well, and other than the fact that it set up Luke being a hermit for The Last Jedi, think it was near on a perfect restart of the Star Wars franchise. Now moving on to the movie where Luke is the hermit, I don't dislike The Last Jedi as much as most people, because most people's problem with it is Luke Skywalker, but I blame The Force Awakens for that. Of course, I'm not going to de-rank The Force Awakens for how we saw Luke in The Last Jedi, because we still saw it in The Last Jedi. But other than that, and other than Canto Bight, I think it's pretty solid. The plot is kind of like small if you think about it. All it is the First Order chasing down the Resistance after the stuff in The Force Awakens until they eventually get to Crate, and then they fight, and that is literally it, along with a couple side stories being Rey on Arc 2 with Luke and Finn and Rose on Canto Bight. But in all honesty, I think The Last Jedi is enjoyable. Now I'm going to quickly break up the movies with Visions and put it there. There were some okay episodes, but don't get it twisted, that was terrible. And speaking of terrible, we have The Rise of Skywalker. No, I don't hate it as much as most, like I've said probably 10 times in this video, but I'm definitely not a big fan. I really like the start, and I really like the end, but the middle section just really isn't that good. Like, it genuinely has about 25 minutes of my least favorite anything in all of Star Wars, starting around the start of the Kylo versus Rey fight on the Death Star, and ending sometime with Rey and Luke on Arc 2. Rey in particular was kind of weird in this movie, like, she just whispered all the time, which I just thought was odd. I've seen a recent criticism that, like, the character of Finn and Poe, like, kind of merged into one. They both had the same, like, wittiness and stuff like that, when at the start in The Force Awakens they were pretty different, and I really agree with that statement. The characters were off, the middle section was boring, and it was, in reality, an underwhelming finish to the Skywalker saga. But I would still rewatch it if I'm being honest. Now, Rogue One, I literally rewatched yesterday, and it was really, really good. Rogue One is a fantastic Star Wars movie. Again, like A New Hope and like The Force Awakens, it's not anything crazy like Revenge of the Sith, for example, but it's just so solid all round. Cassian, Jyn, and K2SO are three, like, fantastic characters, obviously brand new characters at that. The action's really, really good, and I do think it honestly adds a lot to A New Hope, and that is exactly what it was meant to do, and it did it really, really well, so I'm gonna put it in maybe the bottom of incredible or the top of enjoyable. I think I'll go enjoyable. And finally, Solo: A Star Wars Story, definitely the most forgettable Star Wars movie. I remember that it was okay. I don't really remember all too much of what happened. Am I excited for the Lando series because of it? A little bit, but it's just an I'd rewatch it. So let's rearrange this list into exactly where I'd rank everything. And there it is. Now, obviously, this list is soon to change, not just because my opinions change, but there's more stuff coming out, specifically Cassian Andor being the soonest of them. The trailer for the series revealed much, much more than anyone actually realised, and I only realised that when I watched it in 0.25x speed, like I did in this video right here. So check it out if you want to be more hyped for the Andor series. Let me know what you thought of my ranking in the comments. Leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe for more Star Wars, and goodbye.